بسم الله الحمد لله والصلاة والسلام على رسول الله وعلى آله وصحبه ومن والاه ثم أما بعد. Okay, now al-Umdat by Imam bin Qudamah rahimahullah ta'ala. And this will be the chapter of Salat al-Tatawwu', Babu Salat al-Tatawwu', the chapter of the supererogatory prayers. You could call them voluntary, you could call them optional, you could call them supererogatory, whatever, Tatawwu'. And then he said, وَهِيَ عَلَى خَمْسَةِ أَضْرُبٍ. It is of 5 types. Salat al-Tatawwu' is 5 types. And these are the 5 types anyway, so that you could take a look at them. You have the routine ones, those are the 10 or 12 that are prescribed before and after the 5 daily prayers. You have the Witr. He put it as this category by itself. Because it was not mentioned in the hadith of the routine ones, the hadith of the 10 or the 12, but it does have, its great importance. So he mentioned the Witr as a category by itself. And then you have the Nafl prayers, which are the non-routine prayers, additional prayers, extra prayers. And then you have the ones that are done in congregation. The ones that are done in Jama'ah, those are Taraweeh and Kusuf and Istisqa. These are the 3 different types of prayer that are not Fard prayer, yet they are done in Jama'ah. Taraweeh, Kusuf, Istisqa. Taraweeh in Ramadan, Kusuf, the eclipse prayer, Istisqa, the prayer for rain. And then you have sujood of the recitation, sujood al-tilawa. And Imam bin Qudamah did not mention the sujood of shukr, gratitude, but it is mentioned in other books. Okay, so these are the 5 that he will be talking about. He said, وَهِيَ عَلَى خَمْسَةِ أَضْرُبٍ أَحَدُهَا السُّنَنُ الرَّوَاتِبِ وهي التي قال عنها ابن عمر رضي الله عنه أو عنهما 10 ركعات حفظتهن من رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم. The first routine sunnah prayers, these are the ones regarding which Ibn Umar said, radiallahu anhu, 10 rak'ahs I remembered from the Messenger of Allah sallallahu alayhi wasallam. He said, ركعتين قبل الظهر وركعتين بعدها, 2 before Dhuhr and 2 after it. So that is 4 now. The hadith of Ibn Umar, the difference between hadith of Ibn Umar and the other hadith, Aisha and other hadiths that talk about the 12 rak'ahs is in the Sunnah Qabliya al-Zuhr, the before Zuhr Sunnah, which is the 2 verses 4. So the hadith that mention 12 rak'ahs, 12 routine rak'ahs, they mention 4 rak'ahs before Zuhr. But otherwise they are the same. So everything is the same from here on. It's either 2 or 4 before Dhuhr. You can choose 2 or 4 before Dhuhr depending on your circumstances. So ركعتين قبل الظهر وركعتين بعدها, 2 before Dhuhr and 2 after Dhuhr, that's 4. وركعتين بعد المغرب في بيته, 2 after Maghrib at home, that is 6. وركعتين بعد العشاء في بيته, 2 after Isha at home, that is 8. وركعتين قبل الفجر, and 2 after Fajr, 2 before Fajr, I'm sorry. وركعتين قبل الفجر, and 2 before the Fajr, and that would be 10. وحدثتني حفصة, and Hafsa told me, Hafsa is his sister, daughter of Umar ibn Khattab radiallahu anhu, wife of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, the mother of the believers. أن رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم كان إذا طلع الفجر وأذن المؤذن صلى ركعتين. That the Messenger of Allah صلى الله عليه وسلم used to pray 2 rak'ahs whenever Fajr time came and the mu'adhin called the adhan. This was reported by al-Bukhari and Muslim. وهما أكدها, these 2 rak'ahs that we mentioned at the end, the 2 rak'ahs before Salat al-Fajr, are the most emphasized of all of them. In the madhab, these are the ones that you perform in hadar and safar. You just perform them all the time, even if you're traveling. ويستحب تخفيفهما وفعلهما في البيت أفضل وكذلك ركعة المغرب. it is recommended to make them short. It's preferred to make them short. تخفيفهما وفعلهما في البيت أفضل, and praying them at home is better. وكذلك ركعتا المغرب, and this also applies to the 2 rak'ahs of Maghrib, the 2 rak'ahs after Maghrib. Keep in mind that also in the madhab, and consistent with the hadith of the Prophet ﷺ, any voluntary prayer aside from the prayers that are done in congregation are best done at home, not in the masjid. Not just the Fajr and Maghrib. So all voluntary prayers aside from the prayers that are done in congregation are best done at home. He said, الضرب الثاني, so those are the first 10. These are the routine prayers, and these are emphasized. The Prophet ﷺ used to pray them all the time. The Prophet ﷺ would actually make up for them if he missed them, to that extent that he used to observe these particular prayers, that when he missed the sunnah, after Dhuhr, he would pray it even after Asr, despite the fact that it is makruh time. So he would still pray it. So these are very routine, very emphasized, that you should try to pray them all the time. And Imam Ahmad, in fact, said that if you are consistently neglecting those prayers, your testimony should not be accepted in court, because it is thulma fi dinik. It is an insult to your deen, or to your religious commitment, to be negligent of those prayers. But if you're not used to praying them, keep in mind, your nafs is your mount on this journey to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Treat it well, make sure that you don't sort of starve it, you don't overwork it, so that it can last you for the journey, because the journey is a long one. It's a marathon, it's not a sprint. If you're someone who does not do any of those, don't start today by doing 10. Just to do the 2 before Fajr and the Witr. The 2 before Fajr and the Witr. If you want something for a starter, do the 2 before Fajr and the Witr. And then add 2 more. And then after a couple of months, when it becomes part of your routine, add 2 more, and so on and so forth. But to start, the 2 before Fajr and the Witr. Start with those. Particularly the Witr, because in the madhab, the 2 before Fajr are the most sort of emphasized, even in Safar. But Witr is controversial, whether it's wajib or not, because you have the Ahnaf saying that it is wajib. The Hanafis say that the Witr is wajib, it's mandatory, it's compulsory. And in all honesty, when it comes to the apparent implications of the hadith of the Prophet ﷺ, they win that one, because there is a good number of hadith from the Prophet ﷺ. Their apparent implication is that Witr is wajib. The Jumhur basically were able to support their position that Witr is mustahab by the hadith of Aflah and Sadaq. Prospered will he be if he is truthful, or if he truly committed to that. When the man asked the Prophet ﷺ for the fara'id, and he mentioned to him the 5 daily prayers, and he mentioned to him the fasting in the month of Ramadan, and he said that they wouldn't do any more. And the Prophet ﷺ said, Aflah and Sadaq. So the Jumhur said that this man would have not prospered if he neglected a mandatory prayer. So they say that the 5 daily prayers are the only mandatory ones, but several hadith from the Prophet ﷺ whose apparent implication, the obligation of Witr. So the Ahnaf do have a point here, and the Prophet ﷺ said, Salatul layli mathna mathna fa in khifta al-fajr fa'awtir walau biwahida. The daily prayer, the night prayers are done in twos, in pairs. So if you fear the coming in of the Fajr or the arrival of the Fajr time, then make witr even with 1 rak'ah. Therefore, 1 rak'ah is sufficient. 3 would be, and we will come to it, but 1 rak'ah is sufficient for witr. And in this case, if you're someone who does not pray any sunan and you want to start with anything, start with that 1 rak'ah after Isha. And if you're too tired, pray it sitting. So after you had made your taslim and made your azkar, even if you do not usually make your azkar, just pray it sitting while you're there, so that you don't compromise the witr in particular because of this controversy about its obligation. Whenever there is controversy about the obligation of something, it gets high, it should be pushed higher up in the list of priorities. الضرب الثاني الوتر. So these are the 10 or 12. And we said the difference between 10 and 12 is what? Before Zuhr. Is it 2 or 4? الضرب الثاني الوتر. The second is witr, odd-numbered night prayer. ووقته ما بين صلاة العشاء والفجر. Its time is between the Isha and Fajr prayer. The Prophet ﷺ, it was reported that he said, زادني الله صلاة. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gave me an additional prayer. Al-Witr, وقتها ما بين العشاء والفجر. Al-Witr, its time is between the Isha and Fajr. So this is basically the designated time of Al-Witr, after Isha and before Fajr. Yes?
Is Witr being interchangeable with Qiyamul Layl like a standard Hanbali usage?
No. Witr, there are two positions in the madhab, whether witr is part of Qiyam al-Layl in the standard usage, and the authorized view is that it is not. Then if, but sometimes, this is the standard Hanbali usage. I'm not gonna even, but there is like a very strong position that any salah after Isha is part of Qiyam al-Layl. Okay. وقته ما بين صلاة العشاء والفجر وأقله ركعة وأكثره 11. The minimum that is considered perfect is the minimum is 1 rak'ah and the maximum is 11. Minimum is 1 rak'ah and the maximum is 11. Because Aisha radiallahu anha said that the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam never exceeded 11 rak'ahs in his night prayers. وأقله ركعة وأكثره 11. And this report from Aisha, this was reported by Muslim from Aisha. وأدنى الكمال 3 بتسليمتين. The minimum that is considered perfect is 3 with 3 divided by 2 taslims. The minimum that is considered perfect is 3 divided by 2 taslims. So in the Hanbali madhab, how do you pray witr? Is it clear? 1 is going to be enough for you, like a tasbih. 1 is enough, Subhana Rabbi al-Azim, 1 is enough, Subhana Rabbi al-Azim, 10 times is the basically highest level of perfection. Subhana Rabbi al-Azim 3 times is the lowest, entry level into perfection. And then witr also. So 1 is enough, 11 is the most highest level of perfection, and then 3 would be your entry level into perfection. And then in the Hanbali madhab, Abdullah ibn Umar used to pray witr and make 2 taslims. And, so do 2 rak'ahs and then separate the 2 rak'ahs from the last rak'ah by a taslim, and he would say that the Prophet ﷺ used to do that. And that would be the preferred form in the Hanbali madhab. If someone, wanted to pray 3 together, then it has been reported by Nasa'i also that the Prophet ﷺ would sometimes, but not usually in the way of the Sahaba is the 2 and 1, but would sometimes pray 3 rak'ahs. And in this case, there is no taslim. And in this case, there is 1 tashahud. So it is 3 rak'ahs sard, which is sort of consecutive rak'ahs, there is no separation and there is no tashahhud in the middle. You pray 3 rak'ahs, and at this, after the 3rd rak'ah, you make your tashahhud and taslim. So 2 plus 1 is the preferred, 3 with 1 tashahhud is second to the preferred. Then what is disliked is 3, that would be disliked in the madhab, 3 with 2 tashahhuds would be disliked in the madhab. This is also disliked by the Malikis and Shafi'is, and it is the form that is recommended by the Hanafis, 3 with 2 tashahhuds. And then when you say to the Hanafis, how come you do this? When the Prophet ﷺ said, لا تشبه الوتر بالمغرب, don't liken witr to al-Maghrib, they tell you what? We don't liken witr to al-Maghrib because we recite aloud in the 3rd rak'ah and with a surah in the 3rd rak'ah, and we don't do that in al-Maghrib. So anyway, it depends on how you look at it. But at the end of the day, Ibn Taymiyyah rahimahullah, when he was asked about a Hanbali Imam praying for a Hanafi congregation, and they asked him to pray the witr their way, he said the obligation of bringing about harmony within the community supersedes the avoidance of a disliked act, takes precedence over the avoidance of a disliked act. So a Hanbali Imam in a Hanafi masjid should pray the Hanafi way to bring about harmony, unless his audience, his congregation, his people, would, also accept for him to pray the Hanbali way, then he may pray the Hanbali way. But if he feels that his part of his congregation, not necessarily the consensus, but part of his congregation are uncomfortable, then to bring about comfort and harmony and so on, he should be flexible. Flexibility is important because there is the form and the spirit, and don't get stuck, in the form. Okay, so what's the Hanbali way of praying witr? 2 plus 1. And that is the preferred way. And then 3 together with 1 tashahhud would be second to that. Disliked would be 3 with 2 tashahhuds. However, if you are the imam of a congregation that prefers the disliked form, the harmony that you will bring about by doing it is more important. So you do it. Then he said, وَيَقْنُتُ فِي الثَّالِثَةِ بَعْدَ الرُّكُوعِ. وَيَقْنُتُ فِي الثَّالِثَةِ بَعْدَ الرُّكُوعِ. He makes qunut after the bowing of the 3rd rak'ah. He makes qunut after the bowing. So in the qunut, in the madhab, in the Hanbali madhab, qunut is prescribed only in 2 cases. One, qunut in witr, and you can do qunut in any witr you want, all year round. You do qunut in witr, you're fine. It is not only in the last 15 days of Ramadan as in the Shafi'i madhab. It is all year round. You could do qunut in witr, including Ramadan. So the second time when you do qunut in the madhab is fi nawazil, is basically when calamities befall the ummah, tragedies, major calamities befall the ummah, and so nowadays it's just ongoing here. Okay. But in this case, it will be with every prayer. In the Hanbali madhab, though, it is the Imam al-Azam who does this, which is the Khalifa. So another calamity. You don't have one. But at any rate, that is the madhab, but the majority would allow the Muslims without an Imam al-Azam to pray qunut. And in all honesty, I believe in the position of the majority, that this should not be limited to the Imam al-Azam only, or to the Khalifa only. Anyway.
This is in Fara'id or in the Sunnah as well?
This is in the 5 daily prayers, in the Fard. But in the madhab you pray the qunut with every witr, and you pray the qunut after you come up from ruku'ah. And it is reported from some of the Sahaba that they did pray the qunut for a duration equal to reciting 100 ayahs. How long is that? How long will it take you to recite 100 ayahs? About 20 minutes. Half, yeah. Yeah. So anyway, so they did do a long qunut, but you want to, particularly if you're praying for a congregation, you really want to stick to the ma'thur, stick to the du'as that are ma'thur in the Quran and the Sunnah of the Prophet ﷺ. When people start to sort of show off their eloquence and make up their own du'a and make up their own rhymes, sometimes it gets truly disgusting, truly pretentious, truly disgusting. And then you're praying behind the Imam and you're in pain, in agony, anguish, and you just want him to be merciful to himself first and stop. So really adhering to the du'as of the Quran and the Sunnah and the ma'thur, meaning the ones reported from the righteous predecessors, the Sahaba and so on, would be of great benefit for all the Imams and for their congregations as well. So,
What if you're alone?
What if you're alone? Do as much as you want.
And whatever.
Yeah, you could do. Then, because we talked about this before in Ma'thur, and then he will do this after he comes up from ruku', because that is the qunut, that is where the Prophet ﷺ would make it. That is what's reported in the hadith. In the Hanbali madhab, they consider the hadith of qunut before the ruku' to be all ma'lul, to be all sort of faulty in transmission. In this case, but do they allow the qunut before the ruku'? Yes, they allow it, because it has been established from some of the companions that they made the qunut before the ruku'. Certainly in the Hanafis who make the qunut before the ruku', they consider the hadith that are traceable to the Prophet about qunut before the ruku' to be authentic. And this is a disagreement between scholars of hadith, and we may not necessarily have the final say. They have it among themselves. The majority of the scholars of hadith consider it. But again, the majority does not mean that they are always right. So at the end of the day, it is like a traditionalist disagreement over the authenticity of the hadith, but the Hanbalis recognize that qunut before the ruku' is established from the Sahaba. Also, you could add to this that the Sahaba would not make it up. They would have learned it from the Prophet ﷺ, because it's not something that to be made up by a Sahabi. So there is considerable strength for this position. The Hanbalis prefer the qunut after the ruku'. They allow the qunut before the ruku'. Therefore, if your congregation wants qunut before the ruku', you do what? Ibn Taymiyyah rahimahullah said, you do it before the ruku'. He even went as far as saying, even qunut in Fajr, if your imam makes qunut in Fajr, follow your imam, make ammin ala du'a, even though it is disliked. And then the Hanbali madhab considered the bid'ah, and the madhab considered the bid'ah by Ibn Taymiyyah himself. But if your imam, because that's the difference between what I consider to be bid'ah. In my book, it's bid'ah, but the imam is not doing it as a bid'ah. He's doing it because in his madhab, it is prescribed. If you have a Shafi'i imam who makes qunut in Salat al-Fajr all the time, every day, he believes that this comes from the Prophet ﷺ. He believes it is prescribed. So in his book, it is not a bid'ah. So what you do is you follow your Imam in this case, because إِنَّمَا جُعِلَ الْإِمَامُ لِيُؤْتَمَّ بِهِ. The Imam was made so that people may follow him. So in this case, qunut, whatever your Imam does, just do like them. If their position is an excusable disagreement, it is then recommended that you follow what your Imam does. But in the madhab, qunut is before ruku', qunut is only in witr, and during calamities. During calamities, it will be in the 5 daily prayers. Witr is not limited to Ramadan. Witr is throughout the year. Then he said, الضرب الثالث التطوع المطلق. He said the third type, the general supererogatory prayers. وتطوع الليل أفضل من تطوع النهار. The supererogatory prayer at night is better than that of the day. والنصف الأخير أفضل من الأول. The latter half of the night is better than the first half. And the latter, so the best part of the latter half of the night is the first 2/3 of that one half. Because أفضل الصلاة صلاة أخي داود، أفضل القيام قيام أخي داود، كان ينام نصف الليل ويقوم ثلثه وينام سدسه. The best qiyamul layl is the qiyamul layl of my brother Dawood. That's what the Prophet ﷺ said. He used to sleep half of the night, make qiyam 1/3. So this is the 1/3 that follows the 1/2, and then sleep for 1/6 of the night, 1/6 of the night, and follow the stages of sleep. You will find that this is really the most perfect, sleep pattern. Because the deep sleep, stages 3 and 4 would only take place in the first half of the night. And then sleeping, that will last 1/6 of the night, has been proven to be good for your memory. So that 1/3 between the first 1/2 and the last 1/6 is the best time for the night prayers. It would be called tahajjud if you slept before it. If you did not sleep before it, it would not be called tahajjud. Disambiguation. Yeah.
Can you kind of give us an example, translate that into time?
Oh, translate that into time? Okay. So how do you calculate this? What time is Maghrib? Maghrib is at 6 p.m. What time is Fajr? Fajr is at 6 a.m. Okay. So you have 12 hours now. Is it Fajr or Tulu' al-Shams? It's controversial, but let's say Fajr. So from 6 p.m. or to 6 a.m. is the night. And so what is what is midnight in Islam? Oh, and that doesn't work because it. No, let's. Okay. Here. What time is Fajr? Fajr is at 5 p.m. and 5 a.m. is what? 5 a.m. is Fajr. That's 12 hours. 6 hours is 1/2. Add 6 hours to 5, then 11 p.m. is midnight Islamically. Sharia, no. We're even changing midnight. So then you like Aisha was at 6:30 p.m. here. You slept after Aisha. You woke up at 11 p.m. You slept after Aisha. You prayed Aisha. By 7 p.m. you are in bed. You woke up at 11. That's 6 hours. That's plenty of sleep. You slept 6 hours. Huh? 7 to 11? Oh, 7 to 11. Okay, I'm sorry. I thought it was 1. Okay, so 4 hours, still plenty. So then from 11 So we said that 11 is midnight because 6 hours is 1/2 of the night. So what is 1/3 of the night? If the night is 12 hours, what's 1/3? 4 hours. You're praying from 11 to 3 a.m., right? 4 hours. From 11 to 3 a.m. you're praying. And because you slept, this is considered tahajjud. Because you woke up after sleep, this is considered tahajjud. So it is qiyam al-layl, it is tahajjud, it has every virtue. It has all the virtues combined. And then between 3 a.m. and 5 a.m., you went back to sleep for 1/6 of the night, which is 2 hours. Sleep. How many hours did you get? You got 6 hours. And then you have the qaylula, Islamically also. And then now it is truly creeping because all over Scandinavia and many European countries, corporations are having qaylula they have in the quiet rooms for their employees to have the qaylula. So it is in fact creeping. So the 2 hours that you have plus the 4 is 6 hours, 1 hour of qaylula, you got your 7 hours. What more do you need? No, it's anywhere between 7 to 9. Anywhere between 7 to 9, medically speaking, 7 to 9 hours would be good. Some of them recommend 8 to 9. Anyway, but 7 to 9 is recommended. Yes. So some sister was saying something. One of the sisters was commenting.
Say it one more time. So 11 to 3, 6 p.m. and then?
11 to 3 you're praying. We said that you went to sleep at 7 p.m. after Aisha finished until 11. You got 4 hours. You woke up at 11. You prayed from 11 to 3. You got 4 hours of prayers here, mashallah. And then, presumptively. And then you got 2 hours of sleep afterwards before Fajr, from 3 to 5. From 3 to 5. And then you got 1 hour of sleep, in the forenoon or afternoon. That's your qaylula.
That before paying rent or after?
Huh?
That before paying rent or after paying rent?
Paying rent? What is it? No, I didn't get it.
Work.
Huh?
Work.
Work? Oh, I see.
But that's the optimal, that's the best case scenario. So a person could just pray from 2 to 3 and still catch the peak time.
2 to 3, you caught the peak time, yes. Yes. Yeah.
You get more hours.
Yeah. And then الثلث الأخير من الليل, the peak is the overlap between this and the ثلث الأخير من الليل. So الثلث الأخير من الليل is what? From 5, it is between 1 to 5, right? 1 to 5 is the last 1/3 of the night. And then, 1 to 5 is the last 1/3. So between 1 to 3, 1 to 3, that is sort of the peak, the pinnacle, between 1 to 3, because that you will have combined all of the ahadith. So if you want to choose 2 hours, it is between 1 to 3. Okay. Yes.
Okay.
Disambiguation.
Clarification. Okay. So
Yeah, clarification.
Now in the summer, when Aisha's at 10, and you have to get up at 3 for a Fajr.
In the summer when Aisha is at 10 and you have to get up at 3 at Fajr, why do you have to give us the difficult exam? Why can't we just move on, on a good note like this, and everybody is praying 2 hours and having their...
Like, what is enough sleep at that point?
So if Aisha is at 10 and Fajr is at 3, Aisha at 10 and Fajr is at 3, so Maghrib is at 8?
30.
Okay, Maghrib is at 8:30. So let's say that Fajr is at 3:30, just so that we don't have fractions. What is between 8:30 and 3:30? 7 hours. So what is midnight in this way? It's 3.5 after 3.5 plus 8, 30. It is 12. So midnight here would actually be 12. And then, so you pray, but what's 1/3 of 7? Let's say 2.5 hours. So you're praying, or let's say 2 hours. You're praying from 12 to 2. You're praying from 12 to 2. Anyway, you do whatever you can. But this would be the perfect way of praying قيام الليل. He said الضرب الثالث التطوع المطلق. The third type is the general supererogatory prayers. وتطوع الليل. We did finish this, right? Yeah, والنصف الأخير أفضل من الأول. The latter half of the night is better for it than the first half. وصلاة الليل مثنى مثنى. Praying at night is 2 by 2 in pairs of rakahs, as Ibn Umar radiallahu anhu reported from the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, فإن خفت الليل فأوتر ولو بواحدة. So if you fear the arrival of the Fajr, then make witr even with 1 rakah. And then he said, وصلاة القاعد على النصف. So صلاة الليل مثنى. Okay, we will come to this later. وصلاة القاعد على النصف من صلاة القائم في الأجر. The prayer of one sitting is half a reward of that of the one standing. As the Prophet ﷺ said. But also the Prophet ﷺ said, إذا مرض العبد أو سافر كتب له ما كان يعمل صحيحا مقيما. Al-Bukhari reported this from Abu Musa al-Ash'ari radiallahu anhu. Whenever the servant of Allah travels or gets sick, he will be given the reward of what he used to do when he was healthy and at home. When he was healthy and at home. So you will get the reward. This is for people who are incapable of standing. But for people, this is for people who are capable of standing, yet they just decide to sit down. Can you do this in the Nafl prayers? Yes, you could do this in the Nafl prayers. You're completely fine, completely healthy, strong, healthy, but you decide to pray all of your Qiyamul Layl sitting. You will get half the reward of the person who stood up for the entire night. You'll get half the reward. That's great. And if it is more conducive to concentration and reflection, do it. You may get more than the person who is standing. If you had, if your heart was present and if it was more conducive. So, keep this in mind all the time. That it is not, it is not as, literal as some people may think. If one sits down and finds that he's able to concentrate more, focus more, and reflect more, and so on, and get more out of the prayer for his benefit, for his heart, then he certainly he should do that. But if someone is like exhausted, cannot stand up, or sick, or incapable of standing for any reason, that person will get the full reward of the one who is standing, based on the hadith of Abu Musa al-Ash'ari. إذا مرض العبد أو سافر كتب له ما كان يعمل صحيحا مقيما. When the servant of Allah travels or becomes sick, he will have the full reward of that which he used to do while healthy and at home. Then Imam ibn Qudamah said الضرب الرابع, the fourth type, ما تسن له الجماعة وهو ثلاثة أنواع. The fourth type is whatever is done in congregation, what is prescribed to be prayed in congregation. These are 3 types. The 3 types are what? Taraweeh. Taraweeh is the word for Qiyam al-Layl in Ramadan. Taraweeh is the name of Qiyam al-Layl in Ramadan. Kusuf and Istisqa. Kusuf is the eclipse prayer, and Istisqa is the prayer for rain. These are the 3 types of supererogatory prayers that are prescribed to be done in Jama'ah. It does not mean that others are not permissible to be done in Jama'ah. It just means that those are mustahab to be done in jama'ah, prescribed to be done in jama'ah. He said أحدها التراويح وهي 20 ركعة بعد العشاء في رمضان. أحدها التراويح وهي 20 ركعة بعد العشاء في رمضان. First is Taraweeh. These are 20 rak'ahs after the Isha prayer in Ramadan. These are 20 rak'ahs after this, in the Hanbali madhab, there are two views. Some do the Taraweeh right after the Isha prayer and before the Sunnah, and some do the Taraweeh after the Sunnah. The authorized view in the madhab is to do it after the Sunnah of Isha, not after the Isha. So to do the 20 rak'ahs after 2 rak'ahs. So you do your 2 rak'ahs, the Sunnah Ba'diyya of Isha, the after Sunnah of Isha. We call it before and after. The before Sunnah is before the prayer. After Sunnah is al-Ba'diyya. So you're doing your Taraweeh after Sunnah of Isha, not before. You're doing the Taraweeh after, not before your Sunnah of Isha. And then you will do your 3, which is al-Witr, after the 20. So 20 plus 20, 2 plus 20 plus 3. The final number will be 25. Okay, so now what is the deal with the 11 or, yes?
Question, you said Taraweeh is the Qiyam during Ramadan. The Witr is after Taraweeh. In every day, is the Witr before Taraweeh? I mean, Qiyam and then or after Qiyam and then?
You make it at the end. Al-Muwaffaq fi nafsihi, the one who's confident about himself, will pray Witr after his qiyam. After his tahajjud, he will make the final prayer of the day, of the night, Witr. If he's confident. The one who's not confident of himself will pray in the beginning, like Abu Hurairah used to do. Right after he finishes the Isha prayer, he does his Witr prayer. If he thereafter woke up to pray tahajjud or to pray any qiyam, then in this case, he will pray an even number of rak'ahs because he had already prayed Witr, and the final number will still be odd number. So he says here that Witr is 20 rak'ahs. That's another thing where Muslims like to fight. Because this is our sort of hobby. The 20 rak'ahs, where did this come from? And why is it that some people say only 11 rak'ahs? Well, it was reported in a hadith, and this is not like a new thing, by the way. What is new is how we made it a source of contention and disagreement among ourselves. But this has been discussed by the scholars for a very long time. Suyuti said there is no number specified in Risalat al-Masabih fi Salat al-Taraweeh. He said that there is no number, but the only thing that is recommended is Qiyamul Layl. There is no number that was specified by the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Ibn al-Humam, a great verifying Hanafi scholar, said that 11 is the only thing that we have as a sunnah established from the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. The Khulafa al-Rashidun thereafter added more, and they prayed 20. So he said that 20, anything more than 11 would be mustahab and not sunnah, and they do have that distinction. So this is not an established sunnah from the Prophet, but it is recommended because it is something that the Khulafa al-Rashidun did, and they did consistently. And that is the Khulafa al-Rashidun from Umar onwards. Because before Umar, there was no one congregation that prayed Taraweeh. And then Ibn al-Haj al-Haythami, also a great Shafi'i muhaddith, corroborated the same thing, that there is nothing reported that is authentic, that is traceable to the Prophet ﷺ to support the 20 rak'ahs. So Ibn Taymiyyah rahimahullah said, those who pray 20 rakahs, and those who pray 36 rakahs, and those who pray 11 rakahs, and those who pray 13 rakahs, they have all done well. قَدْ أَحْسَنُوا جَمِيعًا أو قَدْ فَعَلُوا حَسَنًا. They have all done well. And he also reported this as an explicit statement of Imam Ahmad, who said, all is good. Any number is good, because there is nothing specified by the Prophet ﷺ. Yes, Aisha reported that the Prophet ﷺ never prayed more than 11 rakahs, but the Prophet said, Salatul Layli Masna Masna. The night prayers are in pairs. Masna Masna, he did not put an end, he did not put a ceiling. فَإِنْ خِفْتَ اللَّيْلَ فَأَوْتِرْ وَلَوْ بِوَاحِدَةٍ. Keep on praying in pairs, and if you fear the arrival of the Fajr time, then make witr even with 1 rak'ah. Which means what? That if you pray 60 rak'ahs, it's fine. And some of the righteous predecessors used to do that. And in the Maliki Madhab, what is prescribed is 36 rak'ahs. And the authorized view of the Maliki Madhab, 36 rak'ahs. So if you think you're doing too much, pray in 20 here. Yeah. So anyway, all of this has been reported. Now the report from Umar itself does, the scholars of hadith agree or disagree over the establishment of this from Umar. But this, keep in mind that when you have reports of this nature that are widely accepted by the jurists of the first generations. You have Hanafis, Malikis, Shafi'is, Hanafis, Shafi'is, and Hanbalis agreeing on the 20 rak'ahs, tracing this to the Khulafa al-Rashideen. You're talking about Abu Hanifa, the 80 Hijri to 150 Hijra, and Shafi'i, 150 to 204, and Ahmad ibn Hanbal, 164 to 241. You're talking about people who sort of were just right there, like a step away from the righteous, the rightly guided Khalifas. So the wide acceptance by the jurists during their time should bring about so much confidence in your heart that this is traceable, this is established, this is an ongoing sunnah within our ummah. Therefore, to come and basically condemn the 20 rak'ahs or consider this to be like a muhdath or bid'ah is a bid'ah in and of itself. The ongoing practice of the companions, the tabi'un, tabi'at tabi'een, widely accepted by the jurists and so on. We are not in a position at all we are not. We are really not. And it is outrageous. So this ongoing practice is certainly just like an integral part of this deen, the ongoing practice of the righteous predecessors. Okay, so yeah.
Regarding the Qiyam al-Layl, which is better, a longer prayer, but like 2 and finish, versus frequent rak'ah, shorter and finish?
Okay, so Ibn Taymiyyah rahimahullah said those who feel exhausted, like from the night prayers, they should pray 20. And those who could do the 11 like the Prophet ﷺ, 11 long ones like the Prophet ﷺ, should do the 11 long ones like the Prophet ﷺ. So he said it varies, it depends on your ability to stand up at night. So 20 short ones would be for the people who get tired of standing. So ruku' and sujood gives them, either you're still in the prayer, sujood is the juice of the prayer, is the pinnacle of the prayer, you're still in the prayer, but because of your inability to stand for long, then 20 would be prescribed for you. And for those who can actually make the 11 rak'ahs of the Prophet, they're different from us. Back in Egypt, particularly in some masajid in Egypt, they could say, طه ما أنزلنا عليك القرآن لتشقى الله أكبر تذكرة لمن يخشى. So but at any rate, to finish the 20. Sometimes you could say Taha or Mudhammatan or something. But if you say like, Qul Huwallahu Ahad or something, it counts. And if you have a congregation behind you that want to pray 20 rakahs, but also they just can't handle 20 longer rakahs, that's fine. You pray the 20 rakahs, you give them a lot of ruku' and sujood and chance to supplicate and so on. It is fine. So in this case, if we want to be reasonable, we just have to sit down and say that nothing was specified by the Prophet. All of this is good. We can choose whatever we want. If we have a congregation that will completely melt down if we don't pray the 20 rakahs, then it is in the best interest of everyone that we avoid those meltdowns and we pray the 20 rakahs. In the West, particularly in extremely northern or southern parts of the world, during the summer, Aisha is too late, then you do want to be considerate of the needs of the people. You need to be considerate of the needs of the people. If the people are flexible, you should be considerate of their needs. Make the 11 rakahs and even make them shorter 11 rakahs, because people have work to go to next day in the morning. Being considerate of the needs of the people is an integral part. This is about the spirit. You want to establish a relationship, a bond, an affectionate bond between the Ramadan congregation, the Ramadan only congregation, and their masajid, and their local masajid. How do you attract them? How do you make them enjoy their Qiyamul Layl? How do you make them enjoy their masjid so that they would come back after Ramadan? A little bit of socialization should be allowed. A little bit of reflection in the local language, whatever the local language is, on the Quran that we recite should be allowed. But to bring those people, the Ramadan goers, the Ramadan congregation, or the Ramadan only congregation, to bring those people and then let them stand in prayer for 2 hours, go home at 1 o'clock in the morning when they have to leave for work at 6 o'clock, and they have to wake up also for suhoor, and then no reflections in the local language. You're just expecting them to hear the recitation and then to stand for the 2 hours. And I don't think that this is right. I don't know who thinks that this would be conducive to to da'wah or to warming up the hearts of the people or winning over their hearts and minds to the religion, to the deen. I don't know who makes those plans. But anyway, if they will melt down, just don't, avoid a meltdown. Continue to preach, continue to exhort, continue to bring up your points, but avoid a meltdown. And then and this is not about 11 or 20, by the way. Pray 20, that is Hanafi, Shafi'i, and Hanbali authorized position. Malikis even add more to this. Pray 20 when it is conducive, when the people can tolerate the 20 rakahs. But when it is so hard on the people, just try to be sensitive and try to be considerate. Because to begin with, the Prophet ﷺ said, خَشِيتُ أَن تُفْرَضَ عَلَيْكُمْ, I fear that it will be made compulsory upon you. So he prayed only 2 or 3 in some reports, 2 days only. He prayed Taraweeh in congregation, and then he prayed at home. Abu Bakr did not do it in congregation. It was Umar that reinstated the Taraweeh in congregation. So be mindful of the spirit of this statement. خَشِيتُ أَن تُفْرَضَ عَلَيْكُمْ. He did not want hardship for us. لَوْلَا أَنْ أَشُقَّ عَلَى أُمَّتِي لَأَمَرْتُهُمْ بِالسِّوَاكِ عِنْدَ كُلِّ صَلَاةٍ. Had I not feared that it would be too hard for my ummah, I would have prescribed for them siwak, or I have commanded them, he prescribed, I would have commanded them to brush their teeth with every prayer. That sense, that's the spirit of لَوْلَا أَنْ أَشُقَّ عَلَى أُمَّتِي. You should always be mindful of that spirit. And that brings us to the end. Time is over, I guess. So next time, inshallah, we can go over Salat al-Kusuf, Salat al-Istisqa, and sujood al-tilawa, and sujood al-shukr, and the times where prayer is forbidden. Times where prayer is forbidden. قولوا قولي هذا أستغفر الله لي ولكم سبحانك اللهم وبحمدك أشهد أن لا إله إلا أنت أستغفرك وأتوب إليك.